Monica and Quincy's love story in Love and Basketball comes down to one final game, one moment where love and competition collide.
But what if Monica never challenged Quincy to play a one-on-one match for love in the middle of the night?
Do Monica and Quincy still find their way back to each other, or does everything quietly fall apart?
That's crazy.
I know, right? But we got to think about this, because is her asking to play that game really the pivotal moment in the movie that either makes or breaks whether or not they're going to be together? I mean, we have to flesh this out. Of course, people are like, of course, if she doesn't ask, then he just goes on. But let's talk about it based on what we know of these characters in the movie. So first of all, we should just recap just really quickly what happens. So we have Monica and Quincy, who both love basketball and they love each other, and they are childhood friends who eventually fall in love and break up over a conflict when they're in college. So then after college, Monica visits Quincy in the hospital following this devastating knee injury that he has while he's in an MBA. And then Monica learns at this point that he is engaged to be married. And so Quincy recovers from his injury and his wedding is drawing closer. And Monica quits basketball because she's been playing overseas to work at a bank. And Monica's mother, though, encourages her to kind of, hey, I think you're right for Quincy. She sort of gives her the nudge she needs to go ahead and try to basically let Quincy know how she feels. She still loves him. So Monica challenges Quincy to play this high-stakes one-on-one game near the end of the film, and Quincy agrees to call off his wedding, basically, if he loses. Although Quincy does win the game, he realizes that he can't live without Monica, and so he chooses her instead. So it says this line, hey, double or nothing, as she's about to walk away crying after she loses the game, right? And so then the two get married, and we see at the end that they have a little baby daughter. Monica's playing in the WNBA. Quincy's career is presumably over as far as playing basketball, and maybe he's doing something else with his life. And so that's how the movie ends. So you guys know we do have a full breakdown with multiple videos of Love and Basketball where we recap everything that happens, discuss every fine detail in the movie. That'll be linked in the description along with all of the other videos we have on Love and Basketball and the Love and Basketball playlist. But the key question really is, if Monica never challenges Quincy to this one-on-one game, there are three key changes that happen, right? One, Quincy, he's never forced into this emotional decision because Quincy won the game, so he rightfully could have just walked away from Monica. The second thing is that Monica never takes this direct risk for love. She's always been guarded and more hardened during the film, but this is her going out on a limb to say, hey, I really love you, and it's my last chance to, get with you before you get married. And then the third thing is that their relationship will, like if the movie ended and they didn't do this, then their relationship is just unsolved instead of being decided at the end of the film. We just will be left up, like hopefully they run into each other. And we've seen movies that end like this where, in fact, I don't know if the breakup movie ended this way, but there are some other movies that end this way where the couple breaks up and then they like run into each other at the coffee shop or something later. Y'all go to the comments, give examples of movies that end like this, where it's ambiguous, where it's left open to the audience to decide, hey, does that chance meeting in a coffee shop a year later mean they got back together or not? But in this case, we get the definitive ending. But really, what happens if Monica never challenges Quincy?
I'm Heit.
And I'm Cheri.
And you've discovered Axiom Amnesia.
We want to thank all of the supporters who helped to make this video possible. If you want your name to appear alongside these contributors, make a one-time donation via Cash App, or you can head on over to patreon.com/axiomamnesia to enjoy all of the benefits of becoming a monthly subscriber. So first questions first. Does Monica ever confess her feelings directly? And, if she doesn't do this game, like, is there any other moment where she confesses her feelings? I mean, and if we assume that Monica walks away without challenging Quincy, then she never creates this defining moment. She likely just internalizes her feelings. She's just longing for him. and she just might accept Quincy's engagement and subsequent marriage as the final thing. So for Monica, it would become kind of a quiet loss instead of this dramatic turning point in the film. I don't know. What do you think? What happens if she doesn't challenge him?
Then he gets married to Tyra Banks.
Do you think Quincy ever has like an epiphany? Like, does he realize that he still loves Monica?
That don't matter. That's not how life works. Right? That's the fairy tale thing. Oh, love, and I love this person, and then we get together and all of that stuff. None of that matters, right? So what if he realizes it? He got a family.
Well, okay, but what before the marriage? Okay, so let's say Monica doesn't challenge him, but let's just say seeing Monica through the window next door, he thinks about her too, because they did have a couple of encounters where he, I don't know, it just wasn't clear. Like he, is talking to her and, whatever, but he seems to be rather faithful.
I don't know, is he the aggressor, for lack of a better term? The pursuer?
He had been previously.
Did he? I don't know. When they were out the window, I guess it just
kind of happened.
Right. So he never pursued her. The other women didn't.
In the very beginning, okay, when they were kids, he did. He was like, "You gonna be my girlfriend, and you gonna ride on the back of my bike," and
Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely think that Quincy was the pursuer. And I don't know if it was that he didn't realize he wanted her, or that he didn't want her, or that he had just decided, hey, I'm going to go ahead. I've proposed. I'm going to get married.
Yeah.
And I've made my decision. And his making of his decision is not based on just emotions.
And he can always cheat like his daddy.
Shut up.
What?
Because Zeke really did. Zeke was terrible, his daddy. His daddy was out in them streets having side babies and stuff. But okay. So now I feel like we have to have this little side conversation. What did you call it? A side quest? It's funny because the other day you brought up the word side quest or something like that. Not about, having a side chick or anything, but about like the idea that you have a main thing. What were we even talking about that you brought up side quest? Because it's funny because I hadn't.
Oh, it was somebody's YouTube video where, they're going about, oh, this is what the video about. And then they have their side quest.
Yeah. And so I hadn't really heard that term lately. And then later that same day, I hear two other people talk about, oh, and this is just a side quest, when I was watching a whole nother YouTube video. It's very funny because it's weird how, you might not hear a term and then you hear it used frequently. And I'm always like, yeah, let me jot that down because maybe that's a sign. Anyway, so I just think Quincy's emotions are not part of his decision. He's already made his calculation. He's going to marry her, his girlfriend. And that's just that. And I think even if he felt strongly, all right, so do you feel like even if he looked at her through the window and was like, man, I really love this girl, is he just going to be fine with that's the one who got away? Is it too complicated to undo his situation with his fiance? Or is he like, I'm a man and I commit and that's that?
That's what happens with everybody, right? You have people who probably broke up with you or whatever, and then that's just how it is. Does everyone just think, well, that's the one that got away and I could get with them, or right?
You just move along, I think, yeah. I think you're right with that.
Or if you broke up with somebody, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because he broke up with her, So then to the answer of whether Quincy goes through the wedding, I think we agree that he pretty much, regardless of whether he realizes he loves her or not, I think Quincy's just going to move forward with the wedding because that's just what you do.
But why did they do that game? Because he was hurt, right? And he still beat her. And I think about Clarissa Shields.
Oh, yeah,
Talking about she could beat Romero or whoever, right?
Yeah. So look, a side quest, sidebar conversation. Okay, y'all. So we were watching Shannon Sharp's show with Ocho Cinco, right? And they were talking about Clarissa Shields and this idea about whether she could beat a man in boxing. And she was saying, yes, she could beat a particular one she was talking about, right? Which to me is sort of irrelevant to the point. Like, a woman can beat a man in boxing. And if she is the greatest woman, they calling her the GOAT. If she is, then it makes sense that she could beat a man. We're not saying she's going toe to toe with the heavyweight champion of the world, or anything like that.
But the welterweight, lightweight, it may be possible.
Well, she has like a weight advantage and whatever. And so
and a reach, all that.
Shannon Sharp is like so sexist though, because he was just like, no, there's just no way he gonna take you out. And Ocho Cinco kind of sided a little bit, although apparently Ocho Cinco is learning to box or whatever. And
but I think it's probably like 90% of men would agree, just because some stupid reason.
And that's why you deserve to get
I want them to get in the ring with her.
When you think, because I would. And then he was like, oh, you're going to take a hit. And she was just like, look, it's not like I can't take a hit. She explained that she spars with male partners who are boxers and stuff like that.
It's like if you put all the weight on strength, right? Mm-hmm. You're assuming that a man who is, I don't know, it could be, let's say 35 pounds lighter, is just stronger, right? Has more strength, which means that he can hit her and then it's over, but that's not all that's involved, right? So just because a woman gets hit doesn't mean that she's knocked out.
About to pass out.
Way. So
and skill, right? The skill, they all agreed that she was a more skilled boxer than the one they were discussing. Maybe even by far. So, but anyways, because Shannon Sharp can't see that, he just is just like, oh, she's a woman. You gonna get hurt, Clarissa. Shut up.
Every male comment I've seen agree with that foolishness.
I don't agree with that. But, I believe she can beat some male boxers. I totally believe that.
But so like in the movie, you have, she's in the WNBA. He's hurt. You know what I'm saying? His career's over. He's hurt, basically, and he can still beat her with his knee wrapped up and everything.
And I do think that pound for pound, that's probably going to be true. Not specific to this, but you brought up the point about like a racer, people, who are runners, and how, the fastest women can beat men. They can beat men who are professionals, but they just they can't beat the top male professional. Right. I'm not going to say can't, but it has not happened to date, and it seems unlikely based on the power and strength and all of what other factors.
Go and look at the times and stuff.
Yeah. So, but this idea, because part of me wondered if he would lose on purpose, but he didn't.
But like with basketball, right? So if we talk about, the skillfulness, right? One can shoot, right? A woman doesn't have to back you down to the basket. She can shoot mid-range, long-range shots and beat a man.
Yeah.
Right? So when it comes to technical boxing and points and everything, a woman can beat a man. If he's just trying to throw haymakers, then they may diminish what he's doing, right?
And then she may be able to tire him out. Like, it's so many things. Again, this is where, like, I think of the idea of the, quote, dumb jock. Not that I'm calling Shannon Sharp a dumb jock. I'm just saying the idea that you're not thinking, you're just a dumb jock. So only thing you have is your body, and you don't really have the skill and the tactics that you want to and
brains versus brawn.
Yeah,
right? The brawn is gonna win every time. I'm stronger, I win. No, that's not how it goes.
But without Monica forcing the issue with Quincy in this game, I do agree. Quincy continues toward marriage, and then he just is going to suppress his unresolved feelings. He's just like, all right, it was whatever, and so he's going to just follow his expected path, and instead of maybe his honest path in his heart, instead of being honest about how he feels, but maybe he just feels it's irrelevant how he feels.
We always talk about it doesn't matter what it feels, right? That's not really what matters.
He made the decision.
That's this new age thing that they came along with that the younger generation ain't really buying into no more, right? And it kind of was swelled up in the 80s and 90s, right? It's that marry for love. What is this? Right? That's just hokey pokey, whatever. Ribbon in the sky. I don't even know if that's the right term.
Well, and for those of you who watch Bridgerton, right, one of the big things is where they talk about a love match. Like, so back in the times when you married for everything but love, where it was about, maintaining your power, your money, your station in life, your prestige, or even marrying up, right? It was like, all right, if you're lucky enough to fall in love with the person that you're getting married to, because you may not even know them that long beforehand, right? Then you've really hit the jackpot, right?
See, that maybe it's just how women think. Can't you love two people or two songs, two cakes? Right?
Generally speaking, I don't think women are made this way.
Yeah, but
I mean,
let's say
and I don't.
If they're married, if they're getting married for love. So when you're with a guy and you're not no longer with them, do you just cut off and no longer love and then get with the next person and now you love them and your love for the other person is gone? Right? He got with another woman. That's not true. That's just what women tell themselves. That's he got with this other woman who he loves, I would suppose. Right?
Yeah.
So then it don't matter about him following his heart for some other love that ain't there no more, right? Or whatever.
Or would take a lot of effort. You know, sometimes I think people do what's maybe easier. You know, it would take a lot of effort. He don't even know how Monica feels. He doesn't know if she feels the same way.
He probably never even thought about it.
Yeah, I mean, he just
clearly when she went to the hospital, he was
like, "This is my fiance." Yeah, you're right. So, but the main difference I would say is that Quincy never gets confronted about his emotions if she doesn't challenge him, which might be a reason why he would decide to just move forward. But then again, you make a really good case for why it doesn't matter. He could be like, I love this girl with all my heart, but at the end of the day, I done made a commitment. I done decided I'm gonna be with this one, and that's just how it's gonna be, and whatever.
But did he question why she was marrying him too? Because she seemed basically his mama was a gold digger. In a sense, right?
That's so many things to explore.
And then, so now you have this new lady who comes along, right? And then you're getting married and Kyra is there and you're like, you have this one who knew you from a kid and probably just there for you no matter what. She has her own, I guess, successful sort of career, you know what I'm saying? And in her dream, right? So she don't necessarily need you, but you know, that's that whole, you know, the long thing that people always talk about, you know, if it's for love, is it gold digging? Is it because he's popular, famous? That question could still be there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it might be, especially if he thinks about what could have likely happened with his mother and father, right? Because we do in our breakdown ask the question about whether or not, you know, did Quincy's mother trap the father? Kind of, you know, he's promising and boom, she pops up pregnant, you know, whether, and it was not certainly spoken, but is the implication there? Is that a possibility? Because a lot of these things can affect what that relationship is long term, you know, but I do want to mention that with our Deep Dive on Demand, we don't pick the film, you do, for $75 and we just take it from there. We do the deep analysis and you'll receive on-screen executive producer credit. You can get yours through the link in the description today. So let's assume the wedding actually happens, right? And in this timeline, Quincy's goes through with the wedding. There's no interruption and that's just what it is. He's not forced to reflect on anything. He's just like, look, I'm going to get married. That's that. So the story of Monica and Quincy kind of turns from this love story where it just gets saved in the nick of time, right? To love that almost happened and just didn't, or love that fizzled out and never is rekindled, right? So if we look at Monica's path in life, then where does that leave her? Her character arc in this film definitely becomes more uncertain. We see Monica change from the point she's a child to falling in love with Quincy, her wanting basketball more than anything than ever, and being a woman at the time before the WNBA had started. You know, she recognizes that I'm never going to be in the NBA. You know, her dream, that dream is just a done deal almost from the start. And then once there's the WNBA, she can go for that, but she's got to go and play overseas. And, you know, every time I think about playing overseas now, I think about Brittany Griner and how she would have never been over in Russia to even get detained for what she got detained for and be imprisoned and all that. That would have never happened to her if she could have made a reasonable wage in the United States playing women's basketball. But the men say, well, you know, don't be mad and nobody want to watch women play.
Yeah.
But
so they just recently announced that they are increasing the salaries in the WNBA.
good.
Yeah, by a good amount. So they'd probably be getting 6 figures and maybe.
And kudos to the women who really stuck in there to try to fight to help that happen. And also the men who were allies in this too. Because it doesn't happen without male allies who are like, hey, this is just what's right and this is how it should go. So without this moment of this game, though, this one-on-one, does Monica stay at the bank job? Like, so Quincy gets married or whatever. Does she leave the bank? Does she stay in that job longer? Does she make it a career? Because remember, the bank job is her starting to follow the path of her father, because her father is like an executive at this bank. So it's nepotism, to be clear. She got her bank job. She hates it. But does she stay in that? What do you think?
I guess, right? Because the thing was, she didn't care nothing about that. She only liked basketball, you know? So, but she was playing in it. Well, she kind of moved back. I don't know.
So did basketball.
Why did she go back to basketball?
Because she had Quincy, right? So when they have this conversation about, you know, where she's like, it's not fun anymore and all of that. But basketball, so at some point, basketball became wrapped up, you know, and couldn't be, was intertwined with her love for Quincy.
Love, right.
With her love for Quincy. And
no,
so
I think
without
it's just love then.
Well, and so without that, the basketball wasn't fun. And, you know, but once she got Quincy back after the game, like in the regular way the movie goes, then of course she's got everything. Now I can have basketball and I can have the man. But without the man, basketball doesn't have the same meaning to her. So it would seem with this character.
Yeah, because I think it's about love, right? So that's why it's love and basketball. It's that it's all in one, right? So if you go down on the downward spiral, gave up on love, then the two things that is shown throughout the film that she loves, right? And that's what he had too, right? He had the one love, but then he lost that one, right? That was his conflict. And then once that was lost, then he had to go back and get love. That's why it's double or nothing, right? Because now he can still have some semblance of love at all.
And
right?
basketball through her, actually.
Yeah.
You know, I was having this conversation and I asked you about it too. But this conversation about, you know, in relationships and marriages and stuff, like, do you feel jealous of your partner? And, you know, I was having this conversation about with somebody else about like, the idea that your partner, of jealousy of a partner. And I asked you, not that this might have been one of those questions that's like begging the lie, as you call it. But I mean, I asked you, you know, hey, do you feel jealous of me? And you were like, what? And I was like, yeah, that's such a foreign concept because I don't feel jealous of you. I feel like whatever you are makes us better. Yeah, and how can you be jealous? Like, I don't get that.
I loosely use the word jealous all the time, though. Like, I'm jealous that I can't sing.
You know what I'm saying? Or I guess, okay, so loosely, right?
Yeah.
I'm loosely jealous that you play the piano amazingly compared to me. You know, so from that end, and I don't know, is envy and jealousy, like, I don't know,
They're
maybe
both have negative connotations.
So there's things that you look at and you wish you could do what another person can do. But I feel like that still is in my wheelhouse, so to speak, because it's you. So I look at like us as a team together as, hey, we got that on our team. You know what I'm saying? That's on our roster. We can do this. We could do that. Whatever we both bring to the table, we're made better through the union of our talents and everything else, right?
So Quincy has basketball because Monica has basketball.
In some way, I think
could
maybe.
Get in. He could, as a man, right? Then you could be like, hey, I could coach women somehow.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so many. And if I can't coach women, then I could go and coach in Colorado. And let me shut up. But anyway, but that's kind of what I think. So just the idea of quote unquote jealousy, like I don't think we either of us feel legitimate jealousy in that same way. It's just like, oh, as a human, you think, oh, I wish I could do this better or that better, but not like where it's where you like, oh, I can't stand that, you know.
In a legitimate meaning of must be nice, not the perverted meaning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, you know, so Monica staying at the job at the bank, I think she probably does, because you know what? I think Monica had almost given in to the idea of just that she was never going to have any of her dreams come to reality.
Yeah.
You know, and it was really her mother who helped turn that around for her.
So anybody in the comments, have y'all dreams come true? Right? Not in the sense of career. Like, hey, just because I think it's crazy to be like, basketball is my dream and I want to do that as a living. You know, because it's, hey, most of the time it's not going. It's going to be short lived, right? So by the time you even in your mid 20s is over, or let's say even 30, it's over, and then you have your whole life ahead of you. Well, I want to know if people really, you know, live their dreams. And I know from a coding aspect, right? People, they're like, hey, I like, I don't know, software, web development, whatever type of software engineering and stuff, right? But it's not like this their hobby. You know, it's that, hey, I make money from doing this, and then I leave that all behind at work once I get off.
So what I think is that you're looking at two people, Monica and Quincy, who are atypical in the way that I think most people do not have an idea from a very young age of what they want to do with their lives and what they will do. Meaning that not only, you know, it's easy, like when you're a kid, at least when I was growing up in, you know, the 80s and the 90s or whatever, people are like, hey, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be this thing. And at the end of the day, most people didn't become that thing, right? And now that I look back on it, all the people I've known, people who I've known throughout their lives, there are very few people, I think, who are both have the dream, committed to the dream doesn't change, and they're willing to put in the work for it, right? From a young age, because to be really good at this, you have to have practice. And what I feel like we saw was two people who were self-driven. This wasn't their parents like, get out there and practice. This was them doing it for the love. They consumed basketball in every way, playing each other, being on the teams. And of course, you know, even Zeke supported his son Quincy, and he was a professional basketball player. But still, yeah.
And to fill you in, it's kind of possible, not always for Monica, but to be able to be like, hey, I do this, and then one day I could possibly have a career in it, right? Just think if you're like a cheerleader. I've been cheering for, you know, since I was 6. And then you go to college, and then after that, what you gonna do? You gonna try to go to become a Laker girl or something, you know what I'm saying? Which is really short-lived. You might do that for a couple years because you definitely age out of that.
But I think it depends on the example, right? And so in Quincy's case, he had a very unique example in having a father who played professional basketball.
Yeah, but I'm saying some of them is more realistic.
Yes. So I think for Quincy that would, but even if it is more realistic, I just think the chances that you're going to find what you want so early in life are just not really all that much, you know, and because when I look around at the people, even I think of myself and the things I said I wanted to be at a younger age, that changed over time. And but I do know a couple of people, out of all the people who I have known long enough to make this assessment, I've known a couple of people who from a young age, one person I know and think of and know well, from a young age was like, I'm going to be a doctor. And he's a doctor. And this is something he was saying from 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't know.
It's probably, I don't know, is it millions of doctors in the U.S., hundreds of thousands?
Yeah.
Right?
But that still is more possible than playing on the NBA.
Doing gymnastics, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know? Exactly. So
you're probably aged out of that after high school, you know?
So what about the idea of whether Monica returns to basketball without Quincy? I think that's slim, because I think what happens is Monica stays at the bank, and then the longer you stay at the bank, the more out of shape you are. Yeah. The older you get, the further you get away from doing something that requires your physical prowess,
but
right?
Maybe she does, because once the WNBA is announced, then she goes to that, right? Because that's probably what led to it. I think that it's just like that love, right? You can't stay away. You probably were there, and then maybe the next year, once you see you can't get him, you went back there to get that man. And when you couldn't get him, you're like, all right, I'm going to go back, play basketball somewhere, you know?
So so here's a question. What was the challenge to Quincy about playing for his love, was it only about Quincy, or what do you think it could have been about more than just Quincy? It was about her herself choosing choosing herself to say, this is what I want and I'm going to go get it. To actually put in practice other, like in her life, basketball was very much that way. She was driven, but in the rest of her life, that wasn't how she let it play out, right? So in this case, she's like, I'm choosing myself. I want this man. I'm going for this man. So it was not just about choosing Quincy, but about it being her choice that she was going to go for. And maybe that supports the idea that when the WNBA comes out, even if she's been playing at the bank for a couple of years, that she's like, hey, I better get to the gym so I can, try out and be, I don't know if you're recruited at that point, but, be able to try out and get on the teams.
Yeah. I don't know.
In the meantime, while y'all think about that and put your comments down below about what you think about what Monica would have done and what Quincy would have done. A lot of you miss our videos because you are not getting your YouTube notifications, and we have fixed this. So subscribe to our mailing list for personalized notifications of all of our videos as they are released across all of our channels, because this ain't the only one, and you'll get an email, and the link for that is in the description. So then if we look at, all right, so Quincy gets married, right? And Monica's at the bank for some time. Maybe she's at the bank and goes to the WNBA, or maybe she just stays at the bank. Okay, regardless of where Monica stays. There are really two kind of long-term scenarios. We have the first one, which is that they do actually see each other later in life and maybe are able to reconnect, and then they never see each other again. So let's take the easy one, which is that they don't see each other and they do not reconnect later in life, right? So Quincy is married. I guess I would assume he remains married, but that having no connection to Monica. So in other words, Monica isn't threatening the marriage in any way. Now, whether Quincy's philandering, if he does that, then, okay. But do you, and as another sidebar conversation, do y'all think that Quincy is a cheater? Do you think that Quincy is faithful to his wife or not? If he marries, what's her name again? I forgot her name. Kyra. Yeah. If he marries Kyra, the flight attendant, does he remain faithful throughout the marriage? And I kind of think Quincy remains faithful because because I think he hated what he saw his mother go through when his father did what he did. And I do think that Quincy is mostly a stand-up guy, but I also need to believe this about Quincy because this is a love story that I have to believe the positive.
Right, through thick and thin.
Okay, go ahead and make your case for this.
That's my case. He cheats, she stayed just like her mama and Quincy's mama.
Well, Quincy's mama divorced and got another man.
Yeah, but she was there until the kids was good and grown.
Yeah, that's
she knew
true.
what was going on.
So Monica builds her separate life, whether that's the WNBA, right? Or whether she stays at the bank. Do you think Monica ever finds a guy or she just remains single?
Of course. I think it happens with most people in a sense. And
somebody gonna ask Monica to go out. Her. Yeah, she does. I think, she might find a guy.
Maybe Jack Harlow will ask her.
Shut up, since he has become blacker.
Monica.
If you know, put it in the comments if you know. But their relationship, I feel like if they never meet again, they would always have this kind of what if hanging over the head. If you think about them as characters in the movie, or if you just think about if they were really real people, there's always the question of perhaps what if. Although if you think of any of our lives, I'm sure everybody has somebody, doesn't even have to be romantic, somebody that you knew for a time and that you hung with really tight for a time, and then you just went in different directions in your life. And when I look back at that, like I think of friends that I was maybe really tight with in college or high school, and you couldn't imagine not having that person in your life at that point, and they're totally not in your life decades later, and you also don't miss them.
And it's people whose name I don't even remember.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's the thing you're not ready for. If somebody told my 13 or 14-year-old self that some of the people I knew, I'd never see again, and, they're not going to be in your life. They're not going to be your best friend later. They're not going to be your whoever. I would be devastated at that point. But now you're looking back on it, it's like, this is life. This is how it's supposed to go. But I would not have believed it as a teen. So let's talk about if they connect later in life. So let's just say years later, Quincy, because I do think that there has to be some type of thing that leaves it open, and because we know Quincy gets married, so he's married. There has to be something that leaves it open. So maybe he's feeling, I don't know, he's feeling empty. Maybe his marriage lacks some kind of depth that he's looking for. Maybe his wife doesn't like basketball, doesn't love basketball. She only loves it through him, right? Monica is now in the WNBA, and let's just assume it's years later. Let's just say 3 or 4 years later, 5 years at most, right? But then now they've met again, had a little bit more life under their belt. And what happens? Like, this becomes kind of a second chance story instead of like this right now or never story that we get with the challenge of the, let's play for love. What
you mean second chance?
Well, if they meet again and they still feel the same way.
So he has to be a cheater.
I guess so.
Yeah, see?
Or a leaver.
That's all the good movies. That's what happens. Somebody is cheating.
I hate that.
They're about to get married, or they're with somebody and then they go off with somebody else because that's the one who they truly should be with. We love it in movies, but in real life, it's like, no, that's terrible. Right? Like Alicia Keys.
Oh, yeah, because they're not letting Alicia live that down. Anytime anything happens.
Them have a nice blossoming marriage, Swiss Beats, after he left that lady.
You mean his wife? After he left his wife, Mashonda.
And she left. We're not going to talk about that.
But after...
right?
Yeah. Yeah?
That's saying if they claim it hasn't happened, it didn't happen, if they was together when the other two got together, right? So,
well, I mean, and then...
in real life, you get talked about bad. In the movies, it's like, oh my God, that's so amazing.
Well, recently they were in the news behind, Swiss Beats... other baby mom, not even his baby mama, because Mashonda was his wife, let's be clear. And then he has a baby mama.
That's who I thought they was talking about.
No. So he has a baby mama. And so, like, if y'all have heard what's going on, and we're not to get too deep into the gossip, but basically, his other baby mama, who is based in the UK, I think, and he has a daughter who is, I think, 17 years old. So she's not of age yet. And the complaint is that she has been using, substances and whatever that she has access to when she's hanging out with her daddy and Alicia at their house, and that they're, basically parents that don't have any real rules and stuff like that, letting her smoke stuff in the vape pen and all this and that. So that's the complaint. But that child apparently happened in between, like, Mashonda and happened after or during Mashonda and before Alicia Keys and Swiss Beats were all together officially and married. So yeah, so here's the thing, and I say this to you all the time because Alicia has taken so much flack. Not to say she was innocent, because I don't know and don't really care what the order of operations was in their marriage, but I would say that she's taken a lot of heat that I feel he doesn't take the same way, for being a homewrecker and all of these other things. And he got a whole nother child with somebody else, while I believe he was actually still married or soon to be divorced, whatever it was, and it's complicated. But a lot of the bad press she gets always has to do with him and his previous scenarios.
Yeah.
But I'll say...
So that whole situation brings up another thing. They were talking about how Northwest is, and, they're able to do what they want to do and dress and grown
Kanye's
and all that sort of
Kardashian.
stuff. And wearing makeup, how you do your hair, how you present yourself. Because, it's celebrated in that sense, and it's celebrated in, I wish my mama or my parents let me do what I wanted to do. And then we had this where it's like, okay, and this couple is allowing this other girl who is almost grown now to do what they want to do and live their life, kind of like the whole Willow thing in a bed with a grown man and stuff, and living her life as an adult.
Yeah,
when she was a child.
I definitely don't condone that, but what I'll say is, for people who are like ultra rich, I mean, the people, not people who you got a famous parent and whatever. Like, I don't mean like Peppa from Salt and Peppa and Tretch's daughter, because they don't have the kind of money that Will Smith has, that,
it doesn't matter.
No, it does, because these children will never have to work. Willow and them was never going to have to work for the rest of their, you know what I'm saying?
It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does matter because you never have to actually follow the rules to have that, your livelihood be dependent on that.
We always talk about mental health and whether or not somebody is mature. The money is not what makes you more mature or
I'm
more
not saying that
fortified mentally. Well, that's
I said I didn't agree with the grown man mess, you know.
But not just the grown man stuff, just in general, to be able to choose the things that you're going to do and all of that, right? That doesn't produce a child who has better mental health just because you have the safeguard of money.
Okay, so to be clear, I'm not saying that their free parenting makes sense and that, you know, that it should be boundless. What I am saying is that the rules are not the same because the rules of their life are not going to be the same.
Right.
So if a parent was a little bit more, let you be yourself. In other words, all the respectability politics and stuff that we tend to be as just regular people and peasants, filled with, may not be something that if you're uber rich and you know the child is never going to have to rely on that they have to follow those types of rules is really what I'm aiming at. Not the rules of like things that are good for your mental health, not being exposed to adults as a child and thinking that that's
but
cool.
It also applies to if your titties out and men are around and stuff like that. It's not just about you have the money to shield you. Those are the choices that are being given.
So I don't think we're saying something different. I agree with you.
Right.
Like, I don't agree with Northwest.
And I'm saying they both has to be judged
like
the
that.
same. And that's why I bring up them as examples, because that's what somebody who we all know, right? Well, I didn't bring up the example. People online brought up that example of Northwest, right? And I threw in Willow.
Right.
Right? Is that we judge this differently when it's them, but in real, so-called real life, it's like, no, then we need to put up these different safeguards and you're not mature enough to do this and be making your own decisions. Or even applying one to whatever Swiss Beats baby mama and another to these other celebrities. Right?
So here's another point I guess I'd make is I don't know what happens like if Swiss Beats baby mama is looking at it like my child is going to have to work someday, which means that you can't just be, you know, smoking stuff all day and just lamping around and doing whatever because I need you to be and it may be I need you to be productive, right? Because you are my child and I need these I need the dividends to pay out in the future, right? I need you to be solid to be able to take care of me later. Maybe. I'm not saying that that's the primary goal, but maybe that's also part of it. And then you have her hanging out with them. And the question to me is, because I firmly believe this, the children who grew up in the household with the father, wherever he winds up staying, like a father like Swiss Beats who got kids all over the place, then those children, I think, are the ones who are kind of the most privileged in a way, right? Because they're in the household. They're going to get the benefit of what he thinks is good for himself versus children who may live outside of that and maybe he may have to pay child support and this and that, but it may not be to the level that their lifestyle may not be the same, right, as the ones that live in the household. And so while those children may never have to worry, you know, his two sons with Alicia Keys, I don't know what the future is going to hold for this daughter. You know, I mean, clearly he's taking care of the child and I would presume would take care of her in her adulthood in whatever ways that she needed, but she may need to be more productive because she also might not have the same development, right?
I could be principled, have certain principles that would just say that, you know, drug use and not being in your right mind is just not desired. Right? So
I agree with that. You know, and it just sounds like a culture clash also between what this mother thinks is acceptable versus what allegedly is happening in the home.
There's a lot of times of so-called co-parenting.
So if we get back to Monica and Quincy, let's just talk about the impact on, you know, the what happens if they meet up later in life. So let's say Monica's in the WNBA or whatever. Quincy is kind of maybe a little bit unhappy in his marriage. They meet again with more maturity, like we said, and you say that basically they just gonna have to cheat in order for them to wind up together. And I hate this about it. Like, I don't know, maybe, you know, like
Titanic was a beautiful story, right?
But she was cheating.
Yeah.
Yeah. Facts.
And then any other movie where...
But she was cheating and not married, though.
Yeah,
if, you
okay.
know.
It's somewhere somebody's a gold digger and stuff, and I don't know. It just happens.
You know.
Y'all go to the comments and put all the examples. We probably asked this same question already. Examples in the movies where the love story is that they cheat. You know.
And then and that you don't judge it like negatively.
Because they make the other person look terrible, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how anybody can do, right? But if a regular person still come on the internet and tell us how terrible they husband or whoever is, we gonna be like, but you still cheat, you still shouldn't cheat. Maybe. It depends on the generation, probably, where you're from.
Yes. I also want to mention that the binge playlist is linked in the description. And what this is a playlist of all of our videos that maybe you haven't seen. And we put that together that, you know, when you get ready to go to sleep at night, just go ahead and click on that binge playlist and let it play. I'm sure you will find something there that you have not seen. So hit that up in the description. So let's talk about some of the themes, right? The original theme is like that love requires risk and vulnerability and the thick and the thin of it all. And, you know, you might have to compromise some things, right? These are the themes of the original one. But then if they wind up meeting, if they don't have this game, then basically where the love is not enough to have the happy ending, right?
Yeah.
Because somebody's got to make a move. And if Quincy's not going to make a move because he's engaged and Monica doesn't make a move because Quincy's engaged, or maybe she doesn't have the guts to come up and say how she feels, then love, the growth of that doesn't happen. We never get to see that happily ever after with these two characters. And so the story just kind of becomes less about destiny and more about like this missed opportunity. And it would actually be quite sad. I mean, the ending of the story is we want a happy ending because they have been through like tough times in their relationship, specifically the relationships they have with their parents, you know, Monica and her mother, Quincy and his father, Quincy's mother and father's relationship falling apart and all of that. And so the one-on-one game represents probably more than just basketball. It's like it's this forced decision. It's the thing that says now or never. And are there really moments like that in life or no? Because this is a movie. But do you think there are like now or never moments in life? Seize the day or else?
Yeah, it happens. Like it's sometimes these opportunities never arise, certain opportunities, right? And you just can't go back and be like, all right, opportunity, come back. So not being a so-called pick-me or simp will leave you alone in life in a future that you can't even imagine yet.
Oh.
Is going to be too late.
Because right people now, would definitely call her a pick-me.
Don't be a pick-me, don't be a pick-me, you simp. And then when you get up to, you know, your mid-late 50s and you like, I ain't got nobody. Then, you know, so then you start thinking about, well, back when I was 26, there was this nice man, you know, but...
And she done got married, had a whole family.
Yeah. This guy, he was, you know, he wouldn't pay for the dinner or whatever it is, right? Oh, he wasn't tall enough, and now look at you.
Well, let me tell you what. You know who this reminds me of? It reminds me of, this is the case of, in today's world where you know more than you need to know about these actors, but Clifton Powell, the beloved actor who is just in every freaking movie of the 90s and later, and maybe even some in the 80s, I don't know, but definitely the 90s into the 2000s, right? And he was in some podcast talking and basically about how at his late age, he hasn't settled down and he had many an excuse for it. And I think he has at least one child and whatever. And I was just like, bro, you kind of too old to be talking like this. I mean, you know, like you really was slow on the uptake of
talking about what settle down. Wait,
what life is really about, because your best years, and I hate to say it, like I don't want to say your best years are behind you, but the time when you could have been the most impactful is certainly not now. I don't think. And then, like, I also think about, is it Keith Sweat? I think it's Keith Sweat, who was complaining, talking about these young girls now don't even want to cook, and The quality of women, I'm like, bro, you're like in your 60s.
He's in his 60s
and you want a 30 or 25-year-old woman and she won't cook and won't do whatever. If you wanted somebody to cook for you, you should have been looking for somebody,
you could
even
find
now,
you a 60-year-old who will cook for you, bro.
Look, okay, I'll even give you in your mid-40s, you could probably, but come on, bro, you trying to be dating somebody in their 20s and 30s.
These young girls.
Like, come on now. Come on. And then I also think of Monique, right? Because who was that Monique was telling? Oh, she was telling Shannon Sharp. Monique, the comedian, was telling Shannon Sharp on his show, Shannon, you need to get you some, an older woman, quit dating all these young women. And it's so funny because right after that is when he got caught up in these scandals and had to pay millions of dollars to settle out.
Yeah.
But like you busy trying to, date somebody who could be your child.
We're in a real bad spot, especially, right now we got these gas prices rising. We got transportation is bad and everything, the inflation, everything is going awry and people are solo in it.
Sure enough. We were watching a video about this matchmaker park in China, and basically, it's a park where people of all ages, it was all kind of ages, go to this park and they have a paper that they've written all of their stats on. And everybody there is there to meet somebody. They trying to, it's cuffing season year round. And they just go to this park to try to meet people, right? And I'm like, okay, because one of the, number one is culturally significant, but the second thing is like financially it just makes sense.
But they were all older too, and then a
lot of them were older. A
lot of the, I think I'm not sure how it is now, but their system is set up a lot differently, right? So you probably won't even get the little couple $100 of Social Security either, right? So and depending on what your family have, your kids and stuff, and this stuff is more needed.
Yeah, I mean, but I think about like now, okay, so let's just take in this country, the cost of two people living together in one household is not double the cost of living separately. You know what I'm saying? So you can save money if somehow you could figure out how to get along with a person enough to be with them. And there are, I think, I'm not that I'm trying to sell it, but it's just certain things just make some kind of sense. But we see that happening with people who choose to have same-sex roommates who are not gay, right? They are just like, hey, I'm living my life out, me and my best friend, and we got because I saw two women who had purchased a home together, and each one of them, I think one was newly divorced and the other one had been a single mother, and they bought a house together. And, it's like they're living as life partners without the romantic aspect of it. Yeah. And I was like, at least that's smarter than just trying to be out here struggling on your own, because golly, times is tough.
When they first started allowing gay marriage and stuff, I think it was a movie about this where basically straight men got together for the benefits of being able to be in a marriage.
Oh, yeah.
Not for a
Who
romantic
was that?
reason.
Oh, y'all go to the comments. What movie was that? There was a movie where they were pretending to be gay so that they could have the benefits of, only having to have, to have one household, so to speak.
Yeah.
But, so when I think about like Love and Basketball, can there be a happy ending if they meet back up later in life though?
So there could be a happy ending where she goes off and plays basketball, right? And she's successful in the WNBA. He gets married to his flight attendant and he's rehabbed enough to get back on a team, and then they're both in LA and somehow come across each other. They're like, hey, how you doing? All right, I'm good too. I think that's a good movie ending.
Well, that's like what I said earlier, where it's ambiguous.
No, not where they get, I guess
it's ambiguous and it's left up to the audience.
Where it's not ambiguous, where it's just like, hey, how you doing? All right, and then they both go play.
And then the next thing you know, they play a game of basketball. Okay, is there a world where they can be in each other's lives continually and not have the romance? I mean, I just got to ask it as we wind down. Nope, not cheat. But is there a world where they can remain friends?
I'm sure it is.
I don't think it's.
Bro,
I think it's what you said. It's going to be too tempting because they do in fact love each other like that. Now, you know my theory on
Bro, I just seen some post online where somebody shared some exchange where their partner is like, they were friends with somebody for I don't know how many years, and then they like, well, y'all not friends no more because we got together.
Go to the comments, y'all. What do you think about that? Do you think it's possible to have opposite, I don't want to say opposite gender, how you put it? Do you think it's possible for straight
to have a friend of the gender of your sexual preference?
Yeah. So like if you're straight, do you think it's possible for your husband, and you're a woman, for your husband to have a female friend that is his lifelong female friend, and or vice versa, for you to have a male quote unquote best friend? Because I hear people say that all the time, not just in a marriage or whatever, but like where they're like, my best friend, and it's a male and they're a girl. And I'm like,
no, I don't think it could be your best friend. I think it could be your friend.
I think it could be an acquaintance.
Bruh.
You know, somebody you might go out with from time to time, and I don't mean go out on a date with, just hang out with. But like if y'all are bosom buddies to the point that you would even consider them your best friend.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Friend versus best friend is different, right?
Okay, yes. So, cause I have a theory about I think that people fit together, period, right? And that doesn't have anything to do with gender. I think that people just click personality wise. And my theory is that, okay, so like I would say, let's just say I'm a straight woman, okay? And my female friends who I would be close to, if they were men, my theory is that these would be quote unquote my type. Let's not talk about physical stuff because that's too weird with women. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I think it's just that people's personalities click. So if I'm, this way in one way, the people who I'm closest to.
I think it's the differences, right?
But what I'm saying is that they click, right? So it's our differences. I'm this way, you're that way. And that's part of what makes us click. But whatever the puzzle piece is that fits best with my puzzle piece, that puzzle piece doesn't have completely a gender on it. Whereas.
Right. But no, I'm talking about the romantic part, it seems to be the parts that don't.
Well, so the boundary of the romance piece is that they're not so the boundary for me on the romance piece would be that they're not a man.
Yeah, but the whole thing
or that they're a woman.
Let's say, we gonna sit around and watch basketball together. No. You know what I'm saying? It's those differences.
Okay, so I think we're saying two different things. Whatever it is that I have. Okay, so you're saying like from a male perspective.
I'm just saying in general, I think the part that makes that sort of romantic attraction are the differences, not the things that are alike. So to be friends with someone would not make it likely to be a romantic partner. Because it's those differences that inform that.
Then how do you explain people who are romantic partners who are friends and like solid and romantic at the same time?
Because that's a different kind of friend. You're talking about romantic relationship and you're just calling it a friend. You just compromise on the things you do together.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so maybe that blows my theory out of the water, but I hope you all understand what I'm saying. Basically, the bottom line of what I'm saying is if you got if you're a woman and you have female friends and you're a straight woman, then if those girls were guys, these would be the kind of guys you maybe want to date and be around or have as a romantic partner. That's my theory on human, I don't want to say attraction.
So
and not that you're attracted to your female friends in this way. Well, you are attracted, but just not romantically.
When straight women become friends with a gay man who have the same interests and stuff, do they be wanting to have sex with them?
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
But I would say if they were straight, maybe they would. And I actually would suppose that even with them not being straight, some of them are attracted to their gay male friends.
They just think they are. Nah, I'm just playing.
I don't know. This is like weird. This is weird and complicated because it's hard to think outside of kind of the confines, because it's sort of like, you know, from the time you're a child, and this is where I have so much empathy for you know, our friends in in the LGBTQ community, and I want y'all to chime in on your thoughts on this too, because I feel like from the time that we're young, the first thing is, I remember being like, I'm talking preschool age, where I just knew it wasn't about necessarily an attraction. I had been programmed already that you knew that men and women get together, you know, all of that socialization that you
and
have.
Not based on
I knew
your
if I was
commonalities.
I knew if I was going to have a crush, it needed to be a boy, right? Because that's the socialization.
And not the dude who plays with the dolls. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. Like, this is,
not the dude who's going and doing the double dutch with you.
I don't know. This is
just my unvetted theory that I just came up with today.
Well, and my theory is somewhat unvetted as well, and it could be totally off, but that's just what I think. I think that the people who are your same-sex friends as a straight person would be the type of people that if they were your opposite, the different sex that or gender, that would be who you'd be interested in a romantic partner. And again, personality wise, because we're not talking about physical attributes and all that. I'm just saying personality wise.
Yeah. Oh, and it make me think, you know how many videos or skits that they have of straight? It's about when your stud friend do things, or basically been attracted to a stud friend as a straight man. Yeah.
Well, but because to the man, they're still women. They still have, right? I mean, there are a lot of those.
Yeah, but videos. It's not about, you know, their commonalities or not.
Right. It's just about this is a woman and I want to smash. That's really what those skits are about. But yeah, so I know that this, as always, we wind up, we never know where the road is going to lead in some of these discussions. But I agree. I just think that at the end of this alternate scenario, there is a happy ending that could be had. But for me to feel good about both characters, probably it does have to be the ambiguous happy. It has to be not a happy ending, a hopeful ending, right? They see each other again and we go, what's going to happen? Unless he's just like, you know, his wife divorces him and we know he's single and we know she's single. And then that's when they meet up in LA or whenever the heck, you know.
Why can't they both just be happy separate?
Well, a happy ending together. A happy ending together is really what I was asking.
And why they wasn't supposed to be together, and then they just end up separate, and we're like, yeah.
Because I think it's totally possible if they don't get together that they could have happy lives. Like, I'm not suggesting that that's, you know, they're not going to be miserable the rest of their lives just because they don't wind up together. They could find happiness somewhere else. I think there are many paths to happiness, not just one. So that's what I think. But y'all tell us what you think about the idea that what if they don't play that game, and how does that change things for them and their outcome? Let us know in the comments.
If you made it this far, type Monica got blacker in the comments so we'll know you're one of the real ones who stick around to the end.
And be sure to check out one of the videos that's on the screen right now. And also be sure to visit axiom.app, where you'll find all of our recent videos in one place so that you can watch them, and they have links to them back on YouTube.